Really excited to be here today to talk to you about health and buildings and workplace. And the Office of High Performance Green Buildings have been working very closely with the Office of Architecture and Engineering, and in particular with the Center for Workplace Strategy, on ways in which we can incorporate health and buildings and workplace into the engagements and projects that we do. So it's not only for workplace projects, it could be for building projects, other spaces as well. It doesn't have to be workplace, but you'll see in just a moment the different opportunities that have been developed. We're really excited. We're piloting this project, this initiative, and we're not only doing it for, again, workplace engagements, but also for any kind of assessment of an existing building as you go forward. So we've been, again, working with the Office of High Performance Green Buildings and championing the efforts here for this, and she'll be leading us through a presentation today. At the end of the presentation, we do, for the people that have Google networks, we do have a survey or a form that we'd like for you to fill out. And for those of you all probably thinking mostly some of the AEI firms and consultants that have joined this call who may or may not have Google at their fingertips, we'll figure out a way to incorporate the survey, send it to you all, and to get some feedback. So with that, I will pass it over to Liz.
Thanks, Jonathan. Hi, everyone. I'm Liz York, as Jonathan mentioned, in the Office of High Performance Green Buildings here at GSA. And we've been working on these health tools recently for our own internal use, and thought, maybe we should share these more broadly. As our pilot period has been slowing down, we wanted to get this information out to everyone else so that you can start to integrate it in the work that you're doing, just as Jonathan has mentioned. So I'm going to go through the tools. I'm going to say you're probably not going to see anything earth-shattering. What you're going to see is just standard, regular, good old-fashioned design inquiry tools, just with a little tweak towards healthy buildings and thinking about the people in the buildings. So with that, let me see if I can get my technology to work. Oh, look at that. That was magic. Okay, so the first questions that we really ask are, why should we be focusing on health and buildings at all? We'll talk about that. I'll go through what the tools are that are available, the ones that we've kind of named and outlined for our project here at GSA. And then talk a quick slide about how the tools can be integrated into project phases. We'll do a quick review over each tool. That's like one slide per tool. And then we'll talk about next steps. Okay, let's see if I can get that technology to work again. There we go. So first of all is this kind of big picture question. And, really what we're all doing is trying to figure out what is it that we're trying to achieve with our buildings, with whatever project that we're doing, with whatever building we own and are responsible for. What are the things we're trying to achieve for those occupants? And these are the questions that at the beginning of any inquiry, or just in the yearly management of our buildings, we should be asking. What is working well in our buildings? What do we want to keep promoting in our buildings? What programs are working? What kinds of improvements do the occupants ask for? What do they want to see? What are they asking about? What are they requesting? What are the changes that could enhance mission? Is there something we could do within the building for our client that helps the client reach their clients more efficiently or more effectively? Is there anything that we can do within the building that could help achieve better teamwork or help the mission move forward in a less constrained manner, especially regarding new technology and trying to deal with the new, innovative things we're doing within the hybrid work environment? And then the last one, and it's not least, is which are the risks that are most concerning with our buildings. We know that there are risks in our buildings. Often I'll ask a building manager, is there anything that keeps you up at night about this building? And is there some kind of risk that we need to mitigate with whatever work we're doing in the building? And I do want to just highlight that GSA has been doing this work for a long time. We've been focusing on health for many years. You can see many of the different projects and pilot projects over the years. I'll just give one example that, GSA was one of the main project partners that created the Fitwell Healthy Building Design certification system. And that, on top of all of these other initiatives, it shows that we have a great history of caring about the healthy aspects of our buildings, piloting that work, and then integrating that work into the way that we make our buildings healthy for all of our occupants, all of our clients. So we want to continue to do that. We think it's the right thing to do. It's not funny, but very interesting that last week, the American Institute of Architects held their conference, and they had a piece of legislation within their organization that asked if architects should be considering health in all of their work. And they ratified this resolution strongly and have said architects do have a responsibility for health in buildings. And that's a good thing. We were supportive of that and really glad to know that they're standing behind the H in health, safety, and welfare. And, again, this is something GSA has been doing for many years. And we just think that taking care of the people in our buildings, it's absolutely the most important thing that we do every day. So I wanted to really quickly go through this list of 6 that we're calling tools. And they're, again, like I said, nothing earth-shattering, but just trying to get an organized framework for how we look at buildings and how we make sure health is being represented in our buildings. So the first one is really just training your team, training your design team, training your firm, having firm culture around health in buildings, learning what tools are out there, having people on your team understand that these are available and encouraging them to tap in. A lot of times people just need to know they have permission to utilize these tools. They're trying to do a good job. They don't always know that the client wants them to do a healthy building. Well, we do. So that's the first thing, team training. The second one is surveying occupants. So now reflecting back, what do the people in the space think needs to be done around healthy buildings? The third one is more facility scorecard, or we have something called the total workplace scorecard. The idea here with number 3 is that the project team is taking a good hard look at the facility and making notes about what's there and what's not there. The fourth item is sensors, real sensors. This is, saying we take instrumentation and put it in the building and gather data. So now it's not what somebody thinks or what someone's observing, but rather this is actually, the data that's collected from sensors about what's going on in the building. And then the fifth tool is an occupancy tool that we have developed here at GSA to plug in information about the building, about the occupants, about the number of occupants, and then adjust the percentages to understand what the opportunities are in the space. And we'll talk a little bit about that more later. And finally, tip sheets. So the idea of tip sheets is you get the best practices, you put them on a piece of paper in a file, and then you share those with occupants, you share those with building managers, and they have that best practice at their fingertips. So how would you take these various tools and apply them to your project? this is a sample of how you could integrate any of these tools into the phases of your project. You can see a lot of it happens at the beginning and a little bit at the end. In the middle, you're really working on the design. You're working on the construction itself. And so what you're trying to do is front load, inform your design by doing things like training your team, surveying, getting information about the building in your scorecards, deploying sensors, and understanding what's going on with the choices that you can make as the owner around occupancy, as the occupant around occupancy. And then as you go through the project, through design development, you can see a little more focus on the scorecards and the sensors and the scenario planning. And then as you come out of the implementation, the actual design and construction, you start to look at an as-built scorecard, possible occupant surveys once they get back into the building, like a post-occupancy evaluation, that sort of questioning of people that are in the space, and then distributing those tip sheets as a way to keep the conversation going around healthy buildings and how to keep occupants healthy and safe and well, not only in the workplace, but in their alternative workplace, for example. So to go really a little bit more in depth and talk about each of these 6 tools, we wanted to just take a minute on each one. So the first one, training the team, we can, what we've been doing in the pilot program is offering to teams that we could do a half-day training for the project team on these health and buildings tools. And where we're moving towards, and I think you guys are all aware of this, we're planning a follow-up session to today's session. And that follow-up session is July 9th from 1 to 4. And it will be that half-day training that you see offered on this slide. So what we have been saying is, hey, if your team wants training, let us know, and we can come and talk to your team about these various tools that we've been working with. And the trainings have been a great place for us to hear how the tools are working and how they dovetail into work that the architects, engineers, and interiors teams are already utilizing. So a lot of those teams, they're already doing an occupant survey. So the way that they can tweak it is just to include a couple of questions around what are the health effects that people are noticing in the space. And these trainings can be a good time to talk with your team about how they will adjust the questions they're asking, or which choice they make around will they utilize the total workplace scorecard? Are they going to do well or fit well, or some other instrument? And then how all of these pieces fit together. So we encourage you to have a training to talk about upfront principles around healthy buildings. And in every project situation, or even if you're just looking at what is the next project we're going to do, let's do an assessment to figure out what we need to do in this building. Training your team is a great first step. So the second step, the surveying, really what the surveys are all about are finding out what the occupants think, finding out what their perspective is, asking them about their overall level of comfort, of satisfaction, getting from them, using them as sensors to help us understand what are the issues in the building and what do we need to take a closer look at as a project team. Some of the questions could be around, you see it here, question 1, how frequently do you experience the following conditions at work? And there are questions like eye dryness, eye irritation, a runny nose, headaches, irritability. I would say irritability every day. No, I'm just kidding. But basically trying to find out from the occupants what are issues that they are noticing. So this is a great this is a great thing to do as a step that your project process team takes. You can also see the notes at the top that you can add these questions to a standard occupant survey that you're already planning to administer. Or if you're doing customer interviews or focus groups, that's also a great way to take these questions and just insert them into the work that's already being done on your project. So the number 3 tool is the scorecard. And you'll see on the screen a couple of different scorecards shown. So in the very middle top, you see the total workplace scorecard. This is something that GSA has developed to include all of the kinds of things that we have run into in our buildings that we want to focus on. It's not just LEED, it's not just well, it's not just fit well, it's not just green globes. It's a compilation of various scorecard questions all in one place. And the beauty of it is it's free. It's maintained by GSA, and you can find it on SF Tool. I don't know if how familiar people are with sftool.gov, but you can find that total workplace scorecard there. A lot of times we get feedback from design teams, well, I'm really familiar with Fitwell. Can I just use that scorecard? Absolutely, you can. And so you also see the Fitwell worksheets over to the right as an option. Also, if you're really familiar with well and want to use well as a way to focus on various health metrics for a building, feel free. I think that what we're trying to show is at this stage, the tool would be some sort of scorecard about the facility, what it has, what it doesn't have, and then administering that scorecard 3 times. 1 time to understand the current condition, 1 time after you've finished your design or you're close to finishing your design to show the proposed improvements and where you would score at that point. And then finally, after the construction has occurred, people are moving in, and it's a post-occupancy look at what we really have in place. So what this does is it allows you to get a snapshot of what's going on in the building from a design team look, design and operations team. Walking with the building manager, that's how you can do this. A design and operations team look at what the building really is doing in regards to health strategies from the beginning, and then take through and see how you're doing after your design work is almost complete. If there's any other tweaks you want to make to your design, that second scorecard can really help you with that. And then finally showing us where we are at the end of the process. So the next tool that we've been working on with some pilot projects is the idea of installing sensors and then analyzing that data to understand what needs to be done with regard to the scope and healthy buildings. And a lot of the this chart shows you that we really have these 3 different ways of approaching sensoring. The first way is to say, we can do some short-term monitoring, think 2 weeks. We can monitor some spaces for a couple of weeks, and then we can understand more about what's going on in the building, and that helps inform the design and inform the O&M. In the second category, you can do longer-term monitoring around specific improvements. So you can do something, you do an intervention with the mechanical system, you test it, you find out what's going on, you can tweak it. And this takes a greater investment, but you also get greater value out of it. And then finally, the third area where sensors can be really helpful is you integrate additional sensors into the project, into the building as a part of what you're doing, and they stay there. And those sensors help automate what goes on in the building, and you change your building control sequence so that so that now sensors are a part of the way you operate. And again, that one does have a higher investment, but it also has the potential for a higher value on the operations side. So what we want to really say about this slide is consider sensors. Think about how you can either incorporate them into the work you're doing on a short-term basis to inform the work, or on a longer-term basis to inform operations and help automate operations. So towards the end of the list, number 5, we have the tool to look at occupancy. And this tool is affectionately called WIFM, the Workplace Investment Feasibility Model. I'm really glad Ryan Duffler is here because he's the expert on this and is giving many training sessions on it in the past and in the future coming up as well. But the way that I would characterize this is that it's a dozen questions that help you look at different occupancy scenarios. And then from those different choices that you make, percentages and square footage amounts, it helps you understand the costs and the benefits of different participation thresholds for telework or for working in team situations and sharing space. So you can see the diagram here. It's trying to help us be more efficient with our space. Maybe we reduce our space by 40%, and this tool will help us understand what the reduction in energy would be if we were to do that. So this is a great tool for analysis that's not necessarily related to a project, but when working with a workplace team that is trying to figure out, how much work do we do, how much space do we need, this can be a very valuable tool for that. I'm going to take a second and see, Ryan, do you want to say anything?
No, you covered it all.
Okay,
You did great, Liz. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. And then this is the last of the tools that we're showcasing today. It's the tip sheet on how to have a healthier workplace. And these tip sheets, again, they can be found on sftool.gov, and anyone can pull them down. But the idea is that your project team, you can utilize these tip sheets. You could also, based on your own experience and based on the client's specific needs, you could take some of this information and package it for the client, for the project, with specific information that would help their occupants. What we have found is that when you are talking about health, occupants are they feel cared for, and they're glad that the team is looking out for them. And one of the ways that you can show that you are talking about health is by sharing these tip sheets. These happen to be about improving energy efficiency at home, solid waste management at home, and promoting productivity and health and wellness in the home work environment. So we're saying to them, not only are we're working on making your building healthier when you come into the office, but when you are working at home, here are some tips for how to have a healthier at-home work environment as well. So we care about the whole person. We care about you when you're here. We care about you when you're working elsewhere. And these have been great. They're like I said, ready to use. You can pull them down anytime, and they also help reinforce that your project team is working towards the best benefits for the occupant health, the client's operation, and then all of that has to do with productivity. So that's where that's coming from.